Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody to the hearing on the validation/abandonment of Gentry Lane. We will now open the public hearing, and I will read the public notice. Legal notice is hereby given that the Washington County Commissioners will hold a public hearing on December 11th, 2023 at 1 p.m. Hearing will take place at the Wyndham Event Center at 309 State Street in Weezer, Idaho. The purpose of this hearing will be to receive comment on the following matter: the validation or abandonment of the right-of-way widely recognized as Gentry Lane. The County Commissioners will carefully consider the public interest in the right-of-way. After a thorough examination of all pertinent information and the completion of these proceedings, they will determine whether the validation of the right-of-way aligns with the public interest. All interested persons are invited to attend the hearing and comment or submit written comment prior to or at the hearing. We're here today to hear evidence on the validation or abandonment of Gentry Lane. We understand that this has been a very emotional process and that there have been conflicts between neighbors. We are not here today to discuss those things. We're here today to hear evidence for the validation or abandonment of Gentry Lane. Please keep your testimony to the subject at hand. I would also like to remind everyone that this hearing is being recorded. Please refrain from making noise while others are talking because it can negatively affect the recorded record. Please refrain from clapping, booing, or making noise whether you agree or disagree with someone else's testimony. Testimony will be limited to 3 minutes per person. If the commissioners ask a question of you, the clock will stop and start again after the question has been answered. Written testimony will be accepted until the end of the hearing. Before we start the hearing, I would like to make sure that everyone is aware the code sections can be found on what the commissioners can consider for the possible validation or abandonment. Idaho Code 40-203 discusses abandonment and vacation of a road. Validation is found in Idaho Code 40-203A. According to these code sections, the commissioners are to consider some of the following pieces of evidence, such as road maintenance, snow plowing, public travel, mailboxes, deliveries, utilities, easements in place, homes that are served by the road, homes that would be landlocked if it were abandoned, old highway information, county property along the road, and other considerations. Okay, we'll now get to the portion of the hearing where commissioners, please reveal any ex parte communication or conflicts of interest.
This is a hot topic, and it's hard to, you would be kidding yourself to say you haven't had or received communications on this issue. I have. Several people, we'll classify them the newer residents up there, have sent me communications. I've had communications with other individuals, received communication from other individuals. Kirk Chandler was one. Conley Walker was one. Others, I did not write them down. I apologize for that if you've been left out, or in those communications I have received, it formed no bias. I had no decision made by anything that I received.
Thank you, Gordon. I've received communications from Doug Elder, Michelle Wick, Dixie Brown, Candace Elder, and Sam and Stephanie Lancaster. When it comes to those were either via text message or email, so I could record that. Similar to Gordon, of course, we've heard discussion on Gentry Lane from lots of other people. If you sent me a message and I forgot to list you, I apologize. The conflict of interest, I grew up here, so I have known Sam Lancaster the majority of my life. I've known Nancy Williams my entire life, and I graduated high school with Margaret Ann Borders, our youngest daughter. My wife does work for the same real estate agency as Stephanie Lancaster, but she does not benefit if Stephanie sells a property, so there's no financial gain there. And that's all I have.
Okay. I also received emails from Doug Elder, Elena and Joe Cardwell, Michelle Wick, Dixie Brown, Candace Elder, and this morning we received an email from Johnson May Attorneys, Candace Elder's attorney. I have not talked to anybody in regards to this or had any conversations. So I think the only thing I've had is emails up to this morning. The rest of it has come in today.
Okay. Okay, we will begin the public testimony. The first person on the list is Dixie Brown. You want to come up to the microphone, please? And please make sure to speak in the microphone again. This is being recorded, and it has to be recorded. Yes.
Well, thank you, Commissioners, for the time and allowing me to present today. I appreciate that. My name is Gentry Brown, and I am representing on behalf of my husband, Bob Brown, and myself. We reside at 1590 Gentry Lane. We moved to Weiser in August of '21, purchased a 20-acre lot on Gentry Lane, and we built our retirement home. The property access that was recorded in our deed is utilizing the easement through Moy's property, as this is a county road and prescriptive easement. Without this access, we would be landlocked. I'm here today to provide evidence that Gentry Lane is and has been a county road by definition of Idaho codes, and we support validating the easement through Moy's property and the enforcement of Idaho codes. And so you listed the codes, so Idaho Code 4202, Chapter 3, all highways used for a period of 5 years, provided they shall have been worked and kept up with the expense of the public, or located and recorded by order of a board of commissioners, are highways. Gentry Lane is open and notorious, and it is a prescriptive easement. This is, excuse me, our land was sold on the basis of prescriptive easement based on statements from Washington County Roads and Bridges, as well as documented on the county maps, IDT maps, LTAC maps, and the maintenance records all show it is a county roadway on the way. The county maps have identified Gentry Lane as a county road from Highway 95 to the turnaround of Lancaster's property since at least 2014. Terry Moy had signed a quitclaim deed document on August of 2014 that clearly defines the definition of his parcel of his land, and it also includes subject to the right-of-way of an existing county road known as Gentry Lane along the northerly side of the above described parcel of land. Also, state and federal funds have been received for maintenance of Washington County, or by Washington County, and it's calculated based on the footage of the roadway from the Highway of 95 through Gentry Lane to the turnaround. And that's been at least 20 years of being funded. If the roadway is validated, the county can continue to make the maintenance and continue collecting federal and state funds. They are extremely important to the county's Road and Bridges Department. If it's not validated, this would cause a deficit in the country funds, and there are no other way to collect these funds other than to raise the community taxes. I'm not going, other than the harassment, because the gates had been locked and the sheriff did have to use Idaho Code 402319 to unlock the gates. The safety and concern of those gates being open and closed is also, am I at time?
Time?
Yes.
Go, you're at time.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Can I ask?
Yes, oh, yeah, fine, this is.
Okay.
What year did you say you moved to Gentry Lane?
We moved in April of 2022,
2022?
but right, and we moved to Weiser in August of 21.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Bought the property in '21.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, we'll do Jared Odums, Washington County Road and Bridge.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I have quite a list here, so I'll try to go through this pretty quick. I have a signed statement from Brian Cavazos, one of my equipment operators, about maintenance. I have a signed statement from Willie Hollis, one of my equipment operators, about maintenance. And I have a signed statement from Dwayne Lewis, my 30-year equipment operator, about maintenance along Gentry Road, for the file for evidence on that. Commissioners, in my file, I'm also going to submit the 2009 road length chart. This was the geotech, or the GIS mapping that we did, and it states the length of Gentry Lane being 0.636099 miles. That takes us to the cattle guard on the other side of Moy's property. For reference, prior to Moy's property, because Gentry Lane is currently the whole road, right? In the year 2000, this is the document where Folkies actually gave us that chunk of land right there, and they might have sold it. My memory is a little fuzzy this morning, but it's all in this. So that section that the county owns prior to Moy's, this is the document stating that and the reason why that happened. In 2013, this is the current transportation plan that we are running on file. It does list, there's a map in there, a functional class map that shows Gentry Lane plus. Gentry Lane is listed on the improvement side of things. Obviously, we have not improved that section up through there, but it lists the width of feet at 16 on that section, so that's for your reference as well. I have a packet of daily job cards from 2013 to 2021. We, because of the gates and the land use issues up in that area and the issues that have come along, I haven't allowed my employees past the gates until we get this settled. But this right here shows the snow plowing and the general maintenance, road grading, things like that have happened from 2013 to 2021. So that's in that packet there. This packet here is 2016 to 2023, all of the road maintenance that we've done on Gentry Lane, clear to the end and then up to certain parts for evidence that belongs in that.
When you say clear to the end of the, to the cattle guard?
To what we call the cattle guard. I've heard that the cattle guard has been removed, but to the end of that maintenance section. Some things that I did come across here very, very recently is I'm also submitting a map from 1980 when the first section of Gentry Lane was put in. Was my time up?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioners, I have the rest of the maps in here for you to review.
Jared, there was no record of it going maintenance past the second cattle guard location?
What we call the first cattle guard. So from Moy's property on, other than where we turned around just past the cattle guard, I have no record of maintenance.
Above that?
Above that.
Turnaround?
Correct.
Okay, all right.
So Jared, as far as you can tell based on the information you have, when we began going to the turnaround? I mean, is there, you're saying 1980 was the map you just had there, does that show that?
So the map does not show that, but my statement from my blade operator that started in 1993 has been going up to that turnaround since then, prior to us claiming state funding.
So you're saying we have written testimony from an employee that says we've maintained through the Moys to the turnaround since at least 1993?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner, any other questions?
No.
Thank you, Jeff. Okay, next on the list is Donna Leahy.
Members of the board, I'm Donna Leahy from Mendel, Idaho. I didn't know if I was going to come here and speak or not, but since I'm the second or third one up here, all my research has been done through the P&Z minutes and the county commissioner's minutes. It seems like no one has wanted to take responsibility for this rezone of Lancaster's property from the start. It started out on March 16th, 2021. And in Lancaster's testimony, he stated the road would be widened and improved through the section from cattle guard to cattle guard. Chad Brock, who Lancaster asked to assist them as consultant, Brock stated project would not tax services. The roadway will be improved by Lancaster to upgrade safety and health response. When P&Z sent their recommendation to the county commissioners, I think Mr. Marvin must have been the chairman, I'm not sure, he just stated that the Lancaster rezone will be postponed until April 12th, 2021. So the board could have time to review findings and facts and other questions. And then after some deliberation, the county commissioners decided it needed to be sent back to P&Z to have specific questions answered. And all through the meetings, minutes that I have went through, it has always been a question: who had the right of way? Was there ownership through there? Who did this property belong to? And so I would really think hard before I took someone's roadway away from them that has been there, or that could validate something. Usually when anything went through P&Z, which I was on for years, someone was doing a subdivision like this, or a rezone, they were responsible for the roadway. They built a roadway and they maintained it. I don't know where this fell through the cracks, because P&Z did send it to the commissioners with a recommendation with a development agreement to be kept. Somewhere, everyone down the line has failed to do what they needed to do. And now we're just trying to correct a mistake. But we need to make sure that these mistakes, when we correct them, do not alter everyone else's rights down the road, which it will. Because anytime you pass an ordinance or change an ordinance, you have taken someone's right away from them. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, next on the list is Gene Weiss.
Yeah, I've lived on Gentry Lane for, roughly 23 years now, and Jared Odom's, they've done very little maintenance on Gentry Lane when they plowed through there. They basically used it just to turn around, and that was it. I've done a lot of plowing down there with my Bobcat myself, so as far as maintaining it for as long as he said he has, everyone that lives up on Upper Gentry Lane can verify that that's not true. He's just not being told the honest truth, I believe. So I should believe the Moyes Road should be left alone. They've been there, Terry's been there for close to 50 years, and that's private property. So that's all I have to say.
Commissioners, any questions? Thank you, Gene.
Thank you.
Kelly Pomeroy?
Kelly Pomeroy, Hoosier, Idaho. I was the one who pulled that cattle guard out at the Moyes property. I was witnessed by all the newcomers at Gentry Lane. I installed that cattle guard 20 years ago. Gentry Lane residents, many years ago, asked to have the county help with this road. Gentry Lane was denied unless they brought it up to standards. The Moyes property front gate is at the end of the county road maintenance. You can drive up it. Doesn't take a blind person not to see the division between the county road that's being purposed and the Moyes property, and therefore throughout the Moyes property to the first cattle guard. That is not county road, that's private property. I took an opportunity and spoke with Matt Thomas about this issue, about the gates. He said lock the gates, it's private property. For the record, he went out there and took the gate locks off that gate by direction of the board and Delton Walker. You guys are not the law. You guys work for us. If this turns into county property, county road, through the Moyes property, who's going to build that road to standard? Are you going to buy their land and take their houses and their buildings and move them back to the setbacks that's required for a county road? Are you going to fix the bridge on Monroe Creek? Because right now that's a 5-ton axle limit bridge. And how many times has that been breached? Gentry Road is a big asset. Nate doesn't want to fix cattle guards in the county, but you're willing to take on another county road project? And by doing this, you're going to access the top of that Radio Tower Hill, the Manning property, for future development. Not 6 original residents of Gentry Lane, or the 6 or 7 new homes on Gentry Lane, are going to be on that road. I'll guarantee you, mark my word, that the development will be coming to the top of that ridge. And when that happens, there won't be 6 or 12 or 15 homes on that lane. There'll be 50 homes up on that ridge accessing Gentry Lane. Do you want that? Every one of you guys sitting at that table, other than Gordon, have fought in the Gentry Lane war. Gene Weiss is the man on Gentry Lane. Everybody points fingers at Gene. No, he's the only man on Gentry Lane left of the old original landowners. 3 of them has already died. So why do we point fingers at Gene? Because he's the one that's standing up for us.
Okay, thank you, guys. Commissioner, any questions? Thank you. Terry Moy.
If you're validating the county road as it is to my property line, I have no problem with that. Through my property, I thought I took care of it 40 years ago. I bought my land 50 years ago from Mr. Gentry. I've always had gates on the road. I thought 40 years ago I took care of the county road so it would not. I took care of my property. In 1981, I sold the easement to lots on the old Coots Ranch. My attorney at that time told me I could keep the county away with the 16-foot right-of-way easement. As I did not want the county in my barnyard, in the 50 years I've owned the property, I've never asked the county to maintain my road. The county asked to come onto my property to turn the grader in my field, which was past my house, through my barn, yard, and the corrals to reach the field. I said, no, I don't want my road to be a public, ever. They said it wouldn't. The county did not pick up their blades on our property as they turned around. We understand they were making the turnaround easier for themselves. I was never contacted when they decided to get state funds for my property. The first notice I found out that the county broke our agreement was the December 11th notice. I do not want the new neighbors to extend Gentry Lane through my property. The sheriff said when he cut the locks off my gate that the county commissioners and the district attorney had ordered him to cut it as they were going to take my property on December 11th hearing. Lancaster's access to the 350 acres is at the mailbox, not through my property. If the county is trying to force access for Sam's subdivision through my property, I question the county commissioners forcing access through private property. If the approval process is stated my road is private, and Mr. Lancaster would have to address it in civil court. He chose not to. Sam's subdivision has no right to my road. Sam's access at the mailbox is it was a 16-foot easement held out of Pokey's property for access to the land. Sam can provide access to the county road through his property for his subdivision. Walker spent 2 hours talking to me and my daughter and Mr. Milstead. Mr. Walker Stock kept trying to change the answer to please all the people, saying due to being a nice neighbor, we lost our rights to the road, that we needed to be good neighbors and let the neighbors through.
Mr. Moyer, your time's done, I'm sorry.
My time's up.
Yeah, if you want to submit anything in writing, though, you can until the end of the hearing.
I've submitted things to writing.
Okay. Before you go, Commissioners, do you have any questions?
I got a question for you. You said, you stated in 81 you sold your easement to who?
Laird owned the property up there at that time, and he subdivided 200 acres out of the 700. So it's Laird that asked for the easement. At that time, Ira Burton, when we wrote the easement, we wrote it as 16 foot to keep the county out of my yard. I mean, that's always
And the
been.
easement was for what?
The easement was for the 6 lots that they did up on the Coons place. That's the only easement through my property was for those 6 lots.
And that's recorded,
Yes,
which would be the 6 original lots.
right,
What we would classify the original
right,
homesteads up there.
right.
Mr. Moy, did you, at any time did your family own a bond past where you own now?
Yes, we own the second category. To Williams,
To Williams, okay.
so.
Mr. Moore, did you want to submit that paperwork?
Yeah, please.
That's what I was trying to say.
Okay, Jay Langer.
I'm Jay Langer, Midville. I've hauled Willow Rock up in there, and I can tell you that if you include all the Lancaster people coming down through there, that road's not wide enough. It just is, and it's going through Moyes, and I think down the road, what you're gonna do is take more ground and make it wider if you go this route. And then, of course, you're gonna have to compensate him for it, and you're also gonna ruin his property. He just won't have anything left. It's just too narrow through there. I thought that you should have made Lancaster put his road in on the other side of the draw there. From underneath his home, cut a road around there to his 6 parcels. And I still think that's the way it should have been done. We wouldn't be here with this. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Jay. Stacy Walker?
Stacy Walker, I have a vested interest in Gentry Lane because my parents own property on that land. This has been a very highly volatile situation for a number of years. And frankly, it's been messed up from the very first point, and there's been a lot of things that should have been done different in the beginning. We can all know that. Be honest with yourselves, you know that. Let's not make it worse. Don't make the equivalent to them of a highway through their private property. Anybody that hasn't been up there should go before you make a determination. You need to put eyes on the property that you're wanting to run through. It's not right. And at least let's stop making bad decisions and protect the private property owners. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks, Stacy. Diana Noy? Hopefully I pronounced that correct. Say it right.
I'm Diana Noy, I live on Gentry Lane, and I have been here for 24 years. And I oppose validation of Gentry Lane because of the right-of-way, going through Moy's property, taking away their property rights, and their property at the taxpayer's expense for the sum of 6 property owners. It's going to take quite a bit of money in order to do that, to make his road up to code. The road should have gone to Sam Lancaster's property because it was his easement. It should never have gone through Gentry Lane. By doing that, you have made the new property owners trespassers. So I don't know why you'd want to spend Washington County taxpayer dollars, quite a large sum probably, to put Moyes Road up to code when it can go around to Sam's land, where it should be in the first place. It's his subdivision. And I also am in approval of a lot of the things that have already been said here and don't want to go through it again. It's all the same of what I have, my thoughts are. Thank you.
Thank you. Sam Lancaster.
Sam Lancaster, 1574 Gentry Lane. Want to approve the road going through Gentry Lane. Heard a few testimonies from Kelly, Jean, Donna. Yeah, I did initially start in planning and zoning meetings say I was going to make the road go from cattle guard to cattle guard if the subdivision application was approved, which it wasn't, nor was a rezone. I was told in a county meeting that it was interpreted by Delton Walker, we could have one home site per 20 acres on A1 ag. That is what happened. So I didn't break anything that I said I was going to do. What I was saying I was going to do never got approved. Going to Gene Weiss on running a skid steer down for maintenance, well, it's got all the way to the point where he's dug up a road and is guilty on trespassing and property damage in excess of $1,000. That's already over with. The harassment and everything that's going on with Gentry Lane and the Moyes coming up here and speaking, it's kind of too far gone from decisions they made. So, you know, this easement that they talk about that they have and they gave to certain people, well, I bought the property that easement went through. That makes me a dominant holder of that easement. So I'm kind of confused how I don't have an easement that was for the land that I bought. And second of all, I'm the land manager for Mick Manning, who also now encompasses the Farnhams, which gives me easements through almost all the roads up there. And I have those on file on a preliminary map that I can turn into the county. Kelly Pomeroy showed up recently to remove those cattle guards. We tried to ask him for receipts from Margaret Ann Borders just to prove the point that she paid for them. We keep getting told we can hear one thing, but until we see the paperwork in front of us, as far as I'm concerned, the road owns the cattle guard. And he's talking about a 5-ton bridge, which I find is funny that he's up here preaching about a 5-ton bridge, but then he takes a 50,000-pound loader over it not even a month ago. So we're talking about axle limits, and we're breaking them. He's breaking them while he's up here talking. Terry Moy's talking about the county and never wanting them to maintain that road through there. You know, I've plowed that road through Moy's myself before this turned into Gene going down and getting Moy's riled up, who is also the person who provided the posts, the work, and everything to put in these gates. I have geo-stamped pictures of Gene putting these gates in, and it all ultimately comes down to him being upset that he can't trespass all over land that he probably walked on beforehand. And if Moy's claiming that this road was never county going through his property, why is there a county sign right in between the Moy's front gate and back gate that says "Watch for Children" that is a county sign? It is a taxpayer paid for sign, and it is on the east side of that entry.
It's 3 minutes.
That's all I gotta say.
Thanks, Sam.
Question.
Yep, go ahead.
Sam, in your opinion, do you own one of the 6 lots originally that had the easement?
Theoretically, I still own a section of that land past Moy's.
Okay.
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Sam. Mike Keck.
Mike Keck, Midville, Idaho. I'm against taking land away from Moy's because the Constitution says you can take land through whatever means, but you do not take land from one person and give it to another person. Behind Moy's property is all private property. You aren't doing anything as far as public land. That's one of my big beefs on this. And Sam Lancaster has land, and he's got a road, goes up over the hill, back down the county road. There is no reason that they can't use that road and stay off of Moy's Road. It's a big thing that started because they got in trouble with the county and the planning and zoning when they first started this. And instead of stopping it, just like Lancaster, he built a road up there right alongside the easement that went up for the 6 lots that was been there for 20, 30 years, whatever it is. You know, and he could have been a good neighbor too, and put that into that, and everyone could have used the same road. It would have helped a lot. But we got in a match. I ain't gonna say what kind of match, but you guys know what I'm talking about. And it's just blowing up, and now you got these people that are gonna lose their property because of something to come along later, and I just can't go for that. I'm sorry. But I got this letter that you know what this letter is. I want to turn it in over here.
Thank you, Mike. Kevin, I'm gonna say the last name wrong probably, Scudder? Scudder? Second time, I got it. I'm sorry. Apologize for butchering your last name.
It's okay, used to it. I live at 1678 Gentry Lane. And since I got here in April of 2023, when I moved in, my wife and my disabled daughter and my son, we have been lied to. We've been confused by the realtor, Sam Lancaster, McManning, which my wife was approached on almost day 2 or 3, that they have access to go through our property to reach their cattle. It was called the OSHIT access gate, which there was misleading property lines on my property by the realtor, so I had to have property marked out by the person that did it 20-something years ago. And come to find out, that gate isn't even on my property. It's Gene Weiss' property. So, and behind it, there was a nice plowed out road. Come to find out, apparently the access to these houses were going to be going up through my property. My driveway is 2 feet away. My garage parking concrete slab is 2 feet away from a road that apparently a lot of people would like to gain access to that property back there. How I have to cross over Diane's property to even get to my property. It's just a driveway. How is that fair to my family that came from hell in Seattle to get away from stuff, to have privacy, peace, now to have 500 people or whatever they're going to build up there to go through my property that isn't even on Gentry Lane? We just have access, and there's a signed easement from the previous owner, Vivian, can't remember her last name, that allowed us to have that easement in the first place, and it was paid to the Moy family. Now, if that's not a violation of the doctrine of what you guys stand behind, why do we even have laws? Why do we even have a constitution? Where is this country going? Do you care enough for the privacy of people's lands, rights, and dignity to stand behind the laws that you cover or you stand for? Okay? We were lied to by Sam. And I'm not done with one lie, and I'm one of those guys, I'm done. I have no ill will to his family or anything. I just don't want to be lied to. And I want my county board that we pay taxes to for everything that's listed on the tax, everything, to stand their ground and not be bullied by people that apparently are bullying him. I'm not one of those guys. I see terrible things happen to the Moy family, people swearing in their faces, getting in their grill. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Doug Elder.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Thank you for taking the time. to hear us today. My name is Doug Elder. I live at 1589 Gentry Lane in Washington County, and I'm in support of validating this road all the way up to the old cattle guard. I've been in construction my whole life as a project manager and an estimator. And I drive that road every day, 3 or 4 times a day sometimes. The road is fine. It's not going to take a bunch of taxpayer dollars to fix. It's fine. And it's always been fine. You'll get all of our paperwork citing the codes and when property was sold and when it wasn't sold and who owned it when. We've got all that paperwork. My wife will turn it in. Shows that this meeting's all shouldn't be happening, in my opinion. So, as a neighborhood of Gentry Lane, I'd like to say that I am severely disappointed in the actions taken by the Moys and others to threaten my family's safety and access to emergency services, medical supplies, and other things. My mom suffers from stage 4 pancreatic cancer, and for her to try to get out, open gates, try to get her medicine, try to get to the doctor has been a real treat, to say the least. As far as making that county road, the county should do the right thing and collect from those taxes paid on that road all these years and make it a county road and make it all go away. In closing, I'm requesting that the county exercise its current right and responsibility to the public on establishing that county right-of-way and demand that the Moys to either remove or open the gates from this day forward. Thank you.
Kathy Keck? Carolyn Keys?
Good afternoon. Carolyn Keys from Midvale, Idaho. I've been watching and listening carefully to the issues revolving around Gentry Lane for quite some time. The county needs to understand that everyone here is watching. And we all know that whatever is done to this family could be done to all of us. It appears that the county has made some very poor decisions in the past concerning Gentry Lane. There is an appearance that some of those past decisions may have been based on favoritism rather than codes or legality. There is, even though you may deny it, an appearance of impropriety, in my opinion. The situation with Mr. Lancaster needs to be cleaned up. The county needs to clean up the county's mess. I listened very carefully to what Donna had to say. Let's not make this any messier than it already is with yet another poor decision. I am absolutely against the validation.
Thank you. Brenda Scudder? Are you right second time? Okay.
I just want to say that my husband and I just moved here in April, and everything I've seen, when communities are developed, roads are developed first, not after the fact, and usually with permits, which, from what I understand, there were none given. The Moys have suffered loss from their animals, from people running them over, squishing them into the cattle guard, not paying attention to anything. They're great people, and by doing this, you're making a huge mistake. Sam has a road that goes straight through his property, right outside the first cattle guard. Why didn't he authorize people to go through there? Why do they want him? Why does he want people to go through the Moy's property and not his? Doesn't make any sense to me. And like my husband said earlier, we were there 3 days. Here comes Mick Manning and Sam Lancaster driving down our driveway. Who are you? Well, who are you? You have no business being here. I didn't invite you onto my property. I'm just to the point now where I think I'm totally against this. The Moys deserve privacy and compassion from these other people that are just, Judy, she's the nicest lady in this world, and people get in her face with vulgar language and calling her names. Where does that get you? I've seen harassment to Tanya, just for, this is ridiculous. People need to grow up, and Sam needs to figure this out and do the right thing.
Samuel Tate.
Yes, I'm Samuel Tate, and I live at 1620 Gentry Lane. And my concern is I haven't seen a proposal from you guys. I mean, I've heard about it, but nobody has said what your actual proposal is. Is it to just go through Moy's property? Is it to go to the second cattle guard? Is it to take everybody's property and make the county road all the way up to the top? So I haven't really heard a solid proposal about that. The other thing I wanted to address is the snow removal. I've plowed that road for years. I've lived there for 18 years. And I've plowed that road when I was there. I drove truck all these years, and so sometimes I wasn't there, but I would plow the road years that I was there, or when I was there. And the year everybody remembers when we had so much snow a while back, we couldn't get the snow out of the road because, you know, there was no place to put it. And where we have this problem with the private property now, we can't, you know, hire Michigan to shovel it and push it off to the side of the road like we did before, because there's just a 18-foot wide easement through there. So there's no way to get rid of the snow in the wintertime. So I just wanted to hear what the county was proposing. I've heard today that they're just wanting to go through Moy's and turn around, but I've never heard anything concrete about what their actual proposal is.
So we can't make a proposal until we get the evidence. So
Right.
if all we can do is look at the evidence of what the county has maintained, and that would be what, if validation happened, it would be to where the county maintained.
Right.
Where we can prove it, right? We can't, if it
Well,
doesn't prove on, it wouldn't be any further.
It wouldn't be any further.
If we have no proof of that, right? A validation is not, this isn't an eminent domain. So all validation is what the county has maintained, how it is in place.
Right. Well, and another thing I wanted to say on that issue. In the summertime, when the counties come up and bladed the road and stuff, I've seen the county time after time turn their cat around at the corner on what is currently the county property and not come through Moy's. The only time I've seen them come through Moy's is when it was snowy and they, you know, had plowed snow off the side of the road and it was hard to turn around. So they went through Moy's and would turn around up there and then come back through. So, you know, I mean, it looked like to me it was just a convenience more than, you know, what they were actually doing. Because in the summertime, when they'd plow the road, they'd just turn around up there on the property, what that was county. So that's all I got to say.
Thank you.
Yep.
Lisa Cleany.
I'd like to read a letter from Kurt Chandler. It starts off, please include this in the proceedings of the validation hearing for Gentry Lane. I was watching the Zoom when Delton was explaining the code on right-of-ways and public right-of-ways. The observation that I would like to point out is a landowner that gives another individual an easement to cross their property does not make it a county right-of-way. The individuals that live east of Moy's property were given the right to cross Moy's property. The county was given permission to drive through Moy's yard to turn around, which was a convenience for the county. There is nothing that implies the county was given an easement through Moy's property. If the county assumes that a landowner giving individuals the right to cross property makes it a county easement, does that mean any place in the county that there is an easement is a county right-of-way? I haven't heard I haven't seen anywhere or heard it presented that the county was given an easement to cross Moy's property. The county is using the fact that a group of individuals have been given an easement makes it a county right-of-way for the public. Was the county given an easement? Was the public given an easement, or just the people that live behind Moy's property? I can't see how this works and whether it sets precedent for future takings. Thank you, Kirk Chandler. Thank you.
Jerry Soulier.
Pass.
Jake Perryman. Jake. Tanya Moy.
Hello, my name is Tanya Moy. I've lived off and on 1580 Gentry Lane my whole life. We have put gates up and down on the road since forever. I gave you guys pictures of some of the fences. So I open a gate and I have a panel that I shut. That since this started, that's what I was using for that end gate when I put my stock out. When approval was done for this event, you stated it was a civil matter. And Mr. Lancaster chose not to address that in a civil manner, or at all. Now, if this was what it is, why wasn't it brought up in 2021? You have wasted not knowing. I don't know how this got this way because my dad did an agreement that they could turn around as long as it wasn't public, and that agreement has been broken. You have no paperwork. You can't even show me any documentation. So if this is the way, then my dad was deceived at the beginning by your representative. The sign was brought up. My niece, Tiara, went and did a letter because people drive through that lane like their car's on fire. And she had been wandering it as a kid since she was little and almost getting hit. So she did a letter, and I believe Marvin went and made arrangements to have that sign just for her. I represented my family in the public, and it's been a lot of harassment my way. We just want to have this all settled. I've free-ranged the lane since I took over Moyland and Cattle in 2006. And I told you at the beginning of this that I'd have to put gates on both ends to keep my livestock in. I'm currently free-ranging some kune pigs and a goat on the lane. And we do off and on to rotate my stock on the regular basis. A gate is normal because we've had them forever. The original gate was horrendous. I also have a picture of some barbed wire. That was the original gate. That's why it's in the pictures. And I am putting up different little spots to do choke points because I'm trying to get them to eat certain areas more. The reason why I got sheep in the first place was the fire hazard. And as you know, our house burnt down. We still haven't replaced it yet, but
I was there.
they're not doing it.
That's your time. Great.
Thank you.
Thank
Any
you.
questions?
Yeah.
Tanya, cattle guards were installed. Did you give permission for them cattle guards to be installed?
It is in the written agreement that the person can put cattle guards in to if they choose to change the gates. Miss Border went and was in a car accident, so they paid to put those in. And Miss Border then arranged to have the one taken out because of all this, being afraid of, my animals have been in it and almost got their heads run over. I had a pig smashed on it. So she then took out her cattle guard. The problem with the cattle guards now is that we don't raise cattle, I raise sheep. And they walk right over the cattle guards, so they're pointless for their purpose on my property.
Okay. So originally, they did have an agreement from you or your family to put the cattle guards in.
It's in the easement that they have the right to replace a gate with a cattle guard. At this time, though, I raise sheep and the cattle guards don't work.
Thank you.
Thank you. Chris Milstead?
My name is Chris Milstead from Cambridge. I have a couple of issues regarding why I would be against this validation process. In the beginning, it stated that the right-of-way runs only up to that first cattle guard, so it doesn't even reach the gate on the other side of the cattle guard. So it doesn't even go completely through the moist property. But then, all of a sudden now, there's this extension of wanting to turn around and do whatever. I'm also concerned with the fact that the original land split agreement that was made with the commissioners over the Lancaster development, and yet the land splits are not even legal. There were no land splits available on the moist property at the time. So how the county illegally approved land splits, further land splits, is rather a confusing issue. The next one is that Washington County, the southern tip of Washington County, is the convergence of numerous fault lines. There is geothermal activity clear across the section of Idaho called the Snake River Plain, runs even to the east side of Boise, and these foothills are just nothing but soft dirt, sand almost. So as of December 8th was the last recorded earthquake in Teutonia, Idaho. These are small enough that they're not making the news, but they're occurring almost every day around the Yellowstone region up to Stanley area. These earthquakes are common, but if you look at the map of the fault lines in Washington County, it would give you concern. Eastern Idaho, or excuse me, East Boise, one of the subdivisions built in the foothills, the houses are still sliding off, and they had to shut down that subdivision, and those homeowners lost their property, and pretty much everything they had. If you guys are wanting to validate this so that you can pass on a larger subdivision and go into Manning's property of 4,000 acres, and you want to develop hundreds of houses, I would say everyone would be at risk due to the type of soil is the same here as it is over there east of Boise. Another issue is the Moys, in trying to maintain their easement rights, and there's all this twist of words, but then when I looked at the Givens-Pursley law firm's manual on easement rights, you can't make a public right-of-way when there wasn't one to begin with. I'm also extremely concerned with the fact that the taxpayers have been paying for 3 decades on non-county land. Call it whatever you want. It's not owned by the county because the county didn't do eminent domain, and that's why you're trying to do the validation now, is to justify that.
Your 3 minutes are up.
Okay.
Thank you. Michelle Witt.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Thank you for hearing us today. My name is Michelle Wick, and my husband Ken and I reside at 1591 Gentry Lane. We are in favor of validation. Per Code 40-2023, Gentry Lane is already a county road highway. There are 3 documents signed by Terry Moy. One was previously mentioned. The latest was November 1st, 2022. They all include the said property legal description and include the following: subject to right-of-way of an existing county road known as Gentry Lane of the above described parcel of land. This clearly states that Gentry Lane is a county road through the Moy's property, which Mr. Moy signed. County maps, as well as ITD, LTAC, have identified Gentry Lane from Highway 95 to the turnaround at the Lancaster's property since at least 2015 and likely much earlier. Gentry Lane has been subject to open and notorious use of a prescriptive easement and county right-of-way for 30-plus years. Washington County Roads Bridges Supervisor stated to Stryker Surveying, who delineated our easements, that Gentry Lane is a county-maintained roadway to the cattle guard. There is no doubt that the county had to take their equipment to turn around past the cattle guard to safely maneuver large road maintenance equipment to safely return to US 95 without harming residents and animals. The county used code 40-2319, section 2, to cut the locks unlawfully placed in agreement with the Moyes at the Moyes property on November 17, 2023. Further asserting and providing that Gentry Lane is a public highway right-of-way. Public roadways are proven to be public and by maintenance for a period of 5 years, not consecutive, using public funding. Records show county taxpayer dollars were used to maintain Gentry Lane. Records show federal funding requests from Washington County calculated from Highway 95 to the cattle guard, which was recently and unlawfully removed as it was a facility located on public right-of-way, and removal caused significant damage to the roadway and hazard to the public as they travel through. Funding from federal government is based on mileage of county roadways right-of-ways. If the roadway is validated, the county can continue accessing these funds for maintenance. This is important to the public of Washington County because the county is currently in a deficit and would have no other way to replace funding for maintenance. The funding can be used for county equipment, employee salaries, road work, etc. Therefore, it is crucial that to continue to acquire it. I think it is important to understand that from the time we came to look at and purchase our property with a licensed real estate broker in August of 2021 to July 2023, these gates were not installed. And Gentry Lane, a public right-of-way, was and is the only ingress/egress to our property.
If you haven't already submitted something, you can still submit something in writing, of course.
Oh, I already have.
Okay.
Questions?
Questions? Oh, yes, there's a question.
You stated there was documents signed by Terry Moy 2021 stating that was, he granted the easement.
It's actually, there was 3 of them. One was in 2009, one was in 2014, one was in 2022. The first one is a personal representative deed recorded on May 13th of 2009. The second one was a quit claim deed recorded August 19, 2014, and the third one was a quit claim deed recorded November 1st, 2022. And I have actually included that with my statement that I have already turned in. I've included all 3 of those. And that verbiage showing, and we also have a map showing Gentry Lane going through the property.
So the second one was, there's a 14th.
That's a quit claim deed recorded August 19th of 2014.
Okay. Good? Any other questions? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
You'll submit that?
Sure.
I already have.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Candace Elder.
I would like to say something.
It's
The easement,
hang on, Mr. Moy, it's Candace's time. If you want to submit something in writing, but you had your time, it's her time.
and
Okay, but if you want to rebuttal via writing, that's totally fine, okay? Candace, go ahead.
Thank you for taking the time to hear me today. My name is Candace Elder, and I reside at 1589 Gentry Lane in Washington County. It is no surprise that I am here today in support of validating Gentry Lane as a county right-of-way, as this is an established requirement of ingress and egress to my home. Today you will and have heard and seen evidence that confirms a right to the county that already exists. The county claimed its right to Gentry Lane as a public right-of-way after performing maintenance using public funding for a period of 5 years, according to Idaho Code 40-202, paragraph 3. The county has the right and responsibility to set a precedent today in validating Gentry Lane. I have with me a copy of the 2015 Idaho Transportation Department Segment Code and Geo Mileage Map, which is one of 30 years worth of reports to the state that indicates Gentry Lane through the Moise property was included as mileage of Washington County's public roadways. If Washington County did not believe this road to be a county right-of-way, they would have been fraudulent in applying for this funding. This would be considered criminal conduct pursuant to Idaho Code 18-5701, paragraph 1. This just isn't the case. Instead, we look toward presumption of regularity of past acts of public officials, which means you start with the assumption that public officials were properly executing their duties. Therefore, further proving the county's intention that Gentry Lane is a county right-of-way. When I moved to Gentry Lane, I made an effort to reach out to the Moise and introduce myself, creating a neighborly relationship. I have been respectful and recently worked with the Weiser Post Office to establish an area for a parcel locker that would allow all residents of Gentry Lane, east of Moise, to access their mail without having to cross the Moise property. This would mean less traffic through the Moise property and would create a space for all Amazon packages to be delivered to residents safely and timely without having to go to the post office, creating less problems for the Moise. On November 17th, the Moise allowed locks to be placed on their gates and did not and would not provide keys to the 6 new landowners that purchased the property from the Lancasters. This was a direct attack on my safety, my family's safety, and the safety of several neighbors. My mother-in-law is being treated for stage 4 pancreatic cancer, and her in-home health care representative was on the way to our home, but could not get through to provide us with my mother-in-law's crucial and life-dependent medical supplies. I was grateful to the sheriff for cutting the locks under Idaho Code 40-2319, paragraph 2. And in doing this, the county again claimed its portion of Gentry Lane through the Moise property as a county right-of-way. In closing, I would like to respectfully request and strongly encourage the commissioners to order the Moise to either remove or keep the unauthorized and unpermitted gates open at all times from today until a final resolution has been made per Washington Code, County Code 9-1-3, gates across roadways, and Idaho Code 40-2319, paragraph 2.
That's your 3 minutes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Brett Carnes.
Thank you for hearing me today. I don't have a dog in this fight. I'm not on either side. I know a few people on one side, a few people on the other side, but from my outside looking at this, and I've been back and forth and did some research on it, that the county made a mistake when there were some mistakes made in the county at the time that the subdivision was to go through or whatever, and that all started this whole thing. From the outside looking in, I think the road needs to be validated, but it doesn't have to be where it's at. It can be moved. If you validate it, it's a county road, it can still be moved. And part of the road needs to get put around Moise for their yard, because it's not wide enough to go through their yard as far as setbacks and right-of-ways. And it could swing over and go through Lancasters and come down through there and put a good road in there, because right now you got people up there that cannot get good fire protection, cannot get good ambulance protection, and it's not a safe way to go. And I'm sure their life, the day-to-day battle between these two has got to be miserable up there. So the county needs to step in and to right some wrongs, fix the road so that it's not going through Moi's house and can go around. And it's going to take a little bit of negotiation back and forth, but I think that's a comparable. And then as far as what building's going to go on up above, they can't stop whatever's going to happen up above. That's that guy's right too. If he's got right of way or an easement somehow, he can do whatever. But it needs to be a county road for buses, for everything. And that's from outside looking into this. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Nancy Williams.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Nancy Williams, and I live at 1627 Gentry Lane. I've lived there for about 20 years. I haven't spoke before, so some of the things I'm saying may have already been decided. I'm not sure. But I'm here to have my say so that I can look back on this and say that I did it. Dear Washington County Commissioners, there are at least 8 families living on Gentry Lane that do not want Gentry Lane to become a county road. We bought our places and have developed them precisely because they're located on private property. We do not want that the designation changed. It's just what we were looking for when we bought. My husband, Marvin Williams, who incidentally, this is the anniversary of his death today, was well respected by the county and the individuals living here. And he was talking with a man from Road and Bridge years ago. I happened to be in the car with the window rolled down listening, but I can't remember. I don't think I knew him at the time, but I did hear the conversation. And Marvin said he was told that the Washington County Road and Bridge could not maintain the county roads as it had at that time. Now that was before all this influx of new people. And if Washington County didn't have the manpower and the equipment or the funding even to maintain the county roads at that time, I think it would be real foolhardy to add another county road to this problem. And that was well before the problems that all came up about the gates, etc. There are other gates in Washington County that are locked and have been locked for years. And the gates that are in question now are not even locked. They're closed with horseshoes. Those of you that live in the country understand what I'm saying. The best possible solution to the entire Gentry Lane, and the one that would serve all its residents, those who travel its roads, would be to continue the road past the mailboxes and go straight ahead. The road is well maintained, it's already there, it wouldn't cost the county a cent. Past that, where it's not maintained, there are roads cut that go clear back to where Manning manages the place. It'd be very easy and a whole lot more cost effective and responsible of you people to go that route. Therefore, I'm not in favor of the proposal, so I respectfully ask that the road be routed past the mailboxes and up the hill. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Oh, Nancy, you might answer the question? Nancy.
Sure. Who wants this? Thank you.
Nancy, do you ever remember seeing the county road grader come up to your property line, grade the road or anything?
Absolutely not. They all come, my understanding, and it's just hearsay, was that they would go through Moyes, and Moyes had granted him the right to turn around just past the first cattle guard that's gone now, just so that they could access, go back out easily.
Okay. And did the school buses go up that road to pick up the kids?
No.
No. You had to take them down below or the highway?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
In fact, before we bought the place, there was a lady that was pregnant, and she had to walk all the way down to the highway to get a road, get a ride into town, have her baby.
Okay. I think that's all our questions.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you.
Grant Reed?
I'm not a fisherman, but I bought hip waders and I'm glad I own them. As a Washington County resident, I live in Cambridge. As a Washington County resident and taxpayer, I have issues with the validation and I'm speaking against it. And the reason that I'm speaking against it is because of the fact that I have personally had experience with trying to get access and easement rights and whatnot for my piece of property, for the 18 acres that I own. And I was told very specifically that I had to have access to the pieces that were on my land, even though there's access to my land from other directions, that I had to generate from my own subdivision, because land splits weren't available, which they weren't in this case either. And they had to come from my property. That's fine. I get that. That's the law and that's the rules and that's the way it's supposed to be. So what we're doing today is we're having a hearing on validating a roadway that doesn't gain any benefit to any of the taxpayers of the county, of which I pay for. It does not provide any access to any services or anything but private land. And I was told I have been accessing the easement all the way to the back of the property to go to Gene's place and a number of other places that are on the old Gentry Lane. And I was told specifically by many of the residents of which I have spoken with, do not leave that 16-foot wide easement, because if you do, you will be trespassed by Mr. Lancaster. So the roadway through the Moys is now going to go to a place that is completely private land and is going to do what? Allow a revenue stream for somebody to trespass people? I don't understand that point. Validation is not going to solve the issue. This issue is going to continue far outside of validation. It will end up in court, it will end up in high levels of court, it will be expensive, and it's going to be ridiculous because these poor folks, and I feel sorry for them, were sold a bill of goods, had illegitimate easements recorded in their deeds, and instead of saying, you sold me the property and there's supposed to be access, what they're saying is, let's plow over an 80-plus-year-old family that has been here for 50 years with active cattle and or farming, ranching. It's been legitimate for 50 years. And the gate issue, I know where there's a set of gates that were on this property that had been there for 20 years that were removed to put the other newer panels up. So the mudslinging thing isn't going to work. The validation is not going to fix the problem because the problem's way deeper. That's all I have to say.
Yep, that's right.
Are you the one that submitted the testimony, I think, about you have a well or something that's been there since 1915?
That was not me, sir.
That was not you?
No.
Okay.
I have no idea.
Okay, thank you.
Judy Beery, hope I said that right. Judy, did I get it right?
Yeah, it's
You're-
Beery.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
I live on Gentry Lane, the part that you're trying to make county road. We've always had gates. The gates are there to keep our stock from going on Sam Lancaster's or any of the other neighbors. And if they leave them open, which they do quite often, then Sam will call and say our pigs are out or our sheep are out or our goats. So we're trying to keep our sheep in. That's why the gates are there. They don't want gates. Sam has a really good road that goes up past the hay barn and over the hill to his place and out at the corner. And there would be no gates, no sheep, no pigs, no dogs for them to open or have to stop for. And if they make this a county road, we have a water line that goes right up the middle of that road. It was there before we ever bought the place, my brother bought it. And we already have a leak there. So, but the county fix those. They fix the water pipe and fix the leaks from the traffic and stuff. We also have dogs buried in our garden. And if you widen the road, you're gonna be digging them up. Are you gonna rebury them? And the sign that Sam talked about, my granddaughter was like in the 2nd grade and the cars, there was some people speeding, so she wrote Mark Williams a letter and gave it to him, asking if he could ask people to slow down. Well, he thought that was funny, so he talked to the county and they come out and put the sign up. That's why the county sign is there. And that's about all I have to say.
Thank you. Joe Cardwell?
Hello, Joe Cardwell. I live at 1585 Gentry Lane. I have my wife Elena here with me today. So, I think we're all kind of talking about the same thing here, and I would agree with a lot of these people about the issues on Gentry Lane. But thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk today. I'd like to start out my statement by saying a word which everyone can relate to in one way or another. That word is choice. A choice or choices is something every human makes, such as what to eat, how to dress, etc., etc. Choices can be good or bad, and sometimes remind us of the choices we made in the past. I have with me here today County Commissioner notes during our meetings concerning Gentry Lane. While reading these notes, I have learned that numerous concerns were made about the Lancasters' development of their property on Gentry Lane, which I live on today. I summarize those concerns as the following: more traffic, emergency services access and response times, and a lack of water with potential arsenic, and finally, a changing way of life. Now in this stack, I have numerous police reports. This stack is very disturbing because of the amount of time, resources, and money that have been wasted on criminal behavior, which has negatively affected all who live on Gentry Lane. Now in these documents here, the easement rights, I have the Moise family agreeing to selling easement rights to 5 families, what I counted on there, I've heard 6 already, back in 1981. To my knowledge, Terry Moise is the only person currently living on Gentry Lane whose name is on that agreement. Now correct me if I'm wrong, but once a person sells their property, their easement rights transfer to the new owners. During a conversation I had with Terry and his advisor, Robert Bennett, which I recorded, Terry stated that his father told him he should have never accepted the deal back in 1981. During this conversation, Terry also mentioned he once owned the land I currently live on before selling it, but kept 10 acres for himself. While reading Idaho Code easement law, it is my understanding that if a person sells land to another and that land does not border a highway with access to it, the person selling land has to allow easement rights through their land so that the new owner may access the property purchased. Terry sold his property years ago, and it changed a couple times before the Lancasters took ownership of it. Again, easement rights transfer with the purchase. One question I think needs to be asked is this: if anyone ever complained about the prior owners using the Moise easements to access the property they sold years ago. Idaho Code easement law also states that easements can be made after years of use, which is how most roads in Idaho were created. I will end my statement with the word choices, which are made every day. Some good, some bad, and some that can come back to remind us of years past. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that was everybody we had down to testify. So at this point, we will close the hearing. Thank you all so much for coming. And I would make a motion, and if for information purposes, there will be no decision made today. We have, this is just so far before the hearing, this is the information that has been submitted to us to go through this week. So as you can see, we clearly can't make an informed decision today. So the earliest decision will be made at the Monday meeting. So a week from today will be the earliest decision will be made on this matter. So at that, I will make a motion to recess until, we will adjourn and recess the meeting until December 18th at 8:45 a.m.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Thank you all for coming.